Okay, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar. Um, I'm going to give people 10 or 20 seconds to join. So, and while we're doing that, if you would all type into the chat, where in the world are you? I am broadcasting from Reno, Nevada. It's all very glamorous here. Ashley,
Ooh,
where are you?
I'm in Santa Barbara, California.
All right, near the beach. How far from the beach are you?
Like 3 blocks. So I'm just shy of a
Oh,
mile.
that's great.
Yeah.
Christina's from Austin. Dominique is in Seattle. All right, welcome everyone. We are going to get started, shall we? Okay. Welcome to our webinar, How Carpe Data Supercharges Roadmap Planning to Deliver Superior Outcomes. I can't wait for you to meet our guest, Ashley Fong. She is a dynamic professional. This is very true. She has an unwavering decade-long commitment to Carpe Data. That's a long time at one place. Well done, Ashley. She has consistently excelled in various roles, including product development, technical operations, client solutions. In her role as VP of product operations, Ashley plays a pivotal role in implementing and ensuring execution of product strategies, optimizing processes across the entire organization. Drawing from her extensive experience in technical, product, and cross functional roles, Ashley has a unique ability to see the bigger picture, navigating the complex landscape of technology and business seamlessly. Ashley, welcome. It's great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm going to
Excited to
pass
be
over.
here.
I'm so glad you are. I'm going to pass over sharing to you, and let's go.
Awesome. So I'm really excited to be here. I've really worked hard over the last year to get our planning in place at Carpe Data. So today we'll be talking about just how I did that by leveling up our roadmap planning, how we found a solution, built new processes to support all of our goals, and how I lead product operations to help supercharge execution, delivery, and outcomes. So let's get started. As Bill mentioned, I'm the VP of Product Operations at Carpe Data. You can see all of our branded bottles behind me here. Product operations at our company includes leading the project management team and product delivery teams while supporting the product team with all of their day-to-day operations. This is truly a role at our company that's at the crossroads where many and almost all at a lot of times parts of the organization intersect to collaborate, whether that be on helping a customer get what they need or coming up with a new feature that will support their use case. I'll start by briefly sharing a little bit about Carpe Data and our road mapping journey. Carpe Data helps insurers achieve peak efficiency with a combination of artificial intelligence and advanced data science techniques. We collaborate with carriers to navigate the chaotic, ever-shifting insurance landscape, enabling and optimizing the claims experience for the world's largest carriers. As a continually evolving company, some of the challenges we're experiencing include planning in many different platforms and services. So that led to having multiple sources of truth in different tools such as Google Sheets and Confluence. Many of the questions the teams were asking were, where do I find the final copy? Where should I be looking? Who has the final list? Which all led to inefficiencies across our organization. It was also hard to consolidate and understand the effects of scenario planning or resource allocation when each team has their own ways of planning or they're working in a slightly different tool. If one's using Google Sheets, the other's using Confluence, how do you merge those to get one list comprehensively across the company to understand what we're doing, what our goals were, and what's most important? Another thing was the top-down strategy and bottom-up planning weren't fully aligning. This means that a lot of expectations were improperly set, where one side of the equation was thinking that they had all of the ideas laid out for the teams to execute. The other side of it, the teams thought that they were working on things that were the highest priority that would help support those initiatives. But overall, sometimes we miss that mark. So we're trying to improve the miscommunications, make sure that anytime that we were trying to update the teams, we weren't manually cobbling all these different data sources to understand what's being done and what's our overall goal. And finally, we didn't really have an organized backlog of initiatives. We didn't know what was coming next or what was most important, and planning the initiatives each quarter would take us the whole month before a quarter started to really get that organized. Once we did that, it would then take another week or so to get agreement across all the teams actually executing on the work, to identify a milestone, agree on when we'd like to reach that, and then ask and put that in front of our executive team to make sure that we are executing on what they intended us to. To address and solve for these challenges, our goals were to have an easy way to understand the impact of shifting priorities. The most asked question I would always get from our executive team was, are we on track? Can we deliver on everything in our roadmap? And most importantly, if we take this one important customer project that came in the middle of the quarter, how does it affect everything else that we're doing? And as you can imagine, with planning in multiple different sources of truth, we had no way to consolidate that to get them a clear, concise answer. We also want to provide a way to visualize our roadmap, keep data in one place. Everyone should have access to what we're working on, what's coming next, both to see what's coming next in their squad, but also across the organization, what's the highest priority and how their priorities kind of fit into the overall vision of the company. We also wanted to align the top-down and bottom-up strategy and work together to align wants versus needs. That looks different across product and tech and data and customer success. So we need a way to align everything and work towards that common goal. And lastly, reducing the amount of manual work, duplicative work, and overall reporting to our stakeholders. So we were using a lot of spreadsheets, or in Jira, we had all this data, but it wasn't able to be in one place. Again, it was manually cobbled together based on what we could do at the time when we didn't have a tool that was helping us aggregate it. So how did we reach these goals? We implemented some new tools and processes along the way with some baseline metrics to understand how the changes were affecting our work. After all, we are a data-driven company, so we should be making decisions based off of data. While we were in our evaluation process to find a tool that worked for our organization and our challenges, we prioritized finding a tool that could assist us with the following use cases: scenario planning to understand how fly-in initiatives affect other priorities, both with delivering the initiatives we commit to and making sure that the teams are allocated in the right way to execute. One of the things that came up was also that our teams weren't able to deliver and were being blocked by each other. So this really helped us understand, or this was really important to us to make sure that all of our teams were, again, always working on the highest priority initiatives. The other thing was dashboards to show overall progress and completion and provide visibility to the organization. This was immensely helpful and something that we knew we needed because of all the questions we were always getting on where are we on track? And we needed one place where everyone could contribute to the same data set instead of cobbling together different pieces of data from different areas. So ultimately, we chose Dragonboat for the features. They have all these great dashboards, and the forecasting is unmatched to other companies we saw. And as a bonus, it was highly recommended from our investment firm, who had a number of other clients using it as well. One of the main attractions, like I was talking about, was that forecasting and being able to see what and when and how switching initiatives, what that does to our overall plan. We also knew this could enable our organization to better deliver on our commitments and adopt to an outcome-focused roadmap practice. Today, we use Dragonboat to provide alignment and visibility into strategic priorities across the organization. We've got all folks around the company, such as customer success, engineering, product, project management, all in there very often. Our product teams are in there daily, if not almost every day. And so it's really nice to have that up-to-date single source of truth that's constantly getting updated. We also use the tool to support our planning cycles and provide a clear roadmap of what we're working on and what's to come. We recently implemented the customer feedback part of the tool, and we can easily tie our initiatives that we're working on to those feedback for the customer success and others to follow who may not necessarily be as close to the planning cycle. And lastly, we score and rank initiatives to create our single source of truth, which makes it easier to set that overall prioritization list. After finalizing the tools and our goals, we were ready to execute. This is how we brought our goals to life and what we're doing at Carpe Data to supercharge execution and delivery. Since using Dragonboat at Carpe Data for almost a year now, I think we're a year in another month, so we're really close there. We've seen a massive improvement on initiatives by implementing more structure to filling out initiative cards, which reduced unclear requirements and clearly outlined the intention and the goal for what we're trying to achieve. This allowed everything to happen a little more async, especially with teams that are across the country. It was really hard to get everybody in a meeting, and it would be harder for everyone to sit on a Zoom meeting for that long. I don't know about all of you, but sitting in a Zoom meeting for hours on end is not my idea of fun. To give us an idea of how we measured this, each of our squads has around roughly 9 people who spent approximately 8 hours doing quarterly planning each time that came up. We have about 5 squads, so that's kind of how we got to our hours saved. Meeting times was really important, and hours saved, it was something that our teams highlighted as something that was really important to reduce overall. And so one of our goals, and this is why this is highlighted so important, was to try and reduce the amount of hours that people were spending in meetings planning when we could be doing those async had we had a better, clear standard of what we wanted our initiatives to look like. In a recent pulse survey we sent out to our team, almost half of our team felt a reduction in the Scrum meetings, and we ultimately will call that a success, since this was, again, a major pain point provided by our team. We heavily invested in this, and we're happy we found our success. Secondly, we streamlined planning for easy participation, fostering visibility, and empowering our subject matter experts to contribute effectively. This allowed folks to step in and step out in the planning process, provide their expertise, but overall be able to jump in and out of the process as they need to. We had some people who became blockers by trying to funnel the approvals through them. This allowed others to participate in that as well, and we wouldn't rely on a single person for helping us move forward. Again, in our pulse survey, 35% of our team felt the product clarity and visibility increased over the last quarter, and we're continuing to see that grow. Lastly, we established our single source of truth in a central manner. Dragonboat is the place where we go to find all of our highest priority items. All of our teams are checking into it constantly, and it's all aggregated information. We now have all of the visibility to our team members on the tech team and across the organization who understand what they're working on, how it ties to the bigger vision, and overall what their work contributes to. This hasn't always been easy, and we didn't always have the answers, but we're still figuring it out. We're still very new to this, but with the framework we set, we feel like now we're in a place where we can make smaller adjustments along the way to better support the team. I always encourage my team to speak up, provide other ways that they can provide feedback if they're not comfortable doing that directly, to help us change the process to meet their needs. Overall, it's been a very collaborative process, and I think it's been a really big success. Dragonboat has been a really big part of that and a key player in helping us adopt those frameworks and best practices to help our company achieve our goals and desired outcomes to uplevel our road mapping, planning, prioritization processes. My tip for all other product ops leaders, or for those who are trying to just uplevel their road mapping and delivery overall, would be to keep trying some new things. Some of the things we tried in the beginning didn't work, and a lot of those I found by attending meetups or webinars. I read a lot of articles, and it was trial by error. Like, a lot of the things that we did were a little bit like fluid in, let's see how this works and adjust it later. So some things that may work for other teams might not work for your team. Others, I found that I had to adapt what I heard to our team. So it's difficult to scrap what you start and to start again, but it's worthwhile once you find that clear road to success. Thanks everyone for joining me, and I'll pass this over back to Bill.
All right, Ashley, thank you. We have a couple of questions, which I think we should address now. In a moment, I'm going to walk through a few things and show you how to do some things in Dragonboat. But in the meantime, Ashley, let's start with this question from Dominique. She says, how did you measure that boost in productivity?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are tracking that by overall completion of our initiatives. We don't really have clear KPIs that kind of help drive that, which some others have. We've used overall initiative completion at the end of each quarter to kind of tie back our overall progress and success. By that, we know that folks are spending less time bouncing back and forth on incomplete initiatives, rather than if the initiative completes, we know that there are more clear expectations and more alignment. But we also did send out a survey, which kind of helped clear that up massively, to get the actual voices heard from our team.
Very good. And another question from Catherine. She asks, do you have multiple roadmap versions for customers versus internal?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we do have multiple roadmap versions. Our customer facing one has a little less specific information on it. So we kind of roll those from initiatives to bets, which you can find in Dragonboat as like a third layer to the types of cards that you can add. So we use more of our bets to explain to our customers what we're trying to accomplish, but internally we kind of use that initiative layer.
So I have a follow-up to that. The bet level is to leave out some of the detail that might still
Yeah.
be in flux. Is that it?
Yeah, and it's to just generalize and summarize what we're trying to accomplish, but we don't want to tell them exactly how we make our where all of our secrets lie.
Of course. Very good. Okay. I think we're going to move to showing a few things in Dragonboat. There are no other questions, but for those of you who are on, if you do have a question or two more for Ashley, please type that in and we'll try to get to that at the end. And what I'd like to do now is show you some of the things you can do in Dragonboat that are in line with some of the things Ashley was talking about. And the first issue I'd like to discuss is the top-down planning versus the bottoms-up planning. So it's sort of two things that I'd like to show. And again, if you'd like to learn more about this, I'm going to do this at a pretty high level. Feel free to go to our website, dragonboat.io/CPO. You can learn more about what we're doing here and even schedule a demo with someone from our team. But top-down planning and bottoms-up planning together is what's important. So on a screen like we're looking at here, there is a way in Dragonboat to communicate what the goals are and what targets we should be setting for how much of our resources or money or budget or time or effort we should put into each one of the goals, and then plan it, and then discover how the teams are planning against it. And we can see, are we over or under planning against what our targets are for our goals? This could also be done by product. So we can set targets, which products should get more resources than others, depending on how we plan the company. So this is a top-down approach. And so when your teams go to start doing their roadmap planning, they have the context to what the goals are and what any other allocation or resource allocation is necessary for each one of those. And you can do that sort of top-down planning. People have the context to do that. On a bottoms-up approach, and this is obviously a more detailed view, but you have all these work items on teams' roadmaps, and the teams are represented by this product column. And so there are ways in Dragonboat where you can use prioritization methods to say what things should be worked on, which is fine by itself, but you can also have it in the context of the outcomes that the company is after. So we've sorted this by outcome. So all of the work is in the context of the outcomes. So now we can compare, yes, this might be a high RICE score, but maybe this particular goal is less important than a goal that's down here. And so maybe we take that into consideration when we do that, right? So this is a more detailed view. This is a portfolio view because there are multiple product teams contributing to these initiatives, right? So what we want to do with these two is combine a top-down approach to planning and a bottoms-up approach, see where they meet in the middle so we can make good decisions on what we should spend our time, effort, and resources on. Okay. The second issue I'd like to discuss, which Ashley brought up a little bit, is this idea of scenario planning. And she also talked about the forecasting, right? So when you're planning, you can, in Dragonboat, indicate what resources do we need in order to deliver on these roadmap items, right? And so in some cases, we want to say we need certain skills for a certain amount of time to deliver, right? Because sometimes we plan issues, plan our roadmaps, and then realize, oh my gosh, we don't have the resources to do it because people are double booked or there are other priorities came up and all those reasons that you can relate to. So we can put a plan together like this, but then notice in this dropdown, we can create scenarios to say, okay, this is our plan, but what if scenario one is we don't have certain resources, or we have a different target deadline, or we actually do get the head count and we can hire somebody. So what does that look like? So I can create and view multiple scenarios, right? Without affecting the plan that we, let's say, committed to. And we can also compare scenarios. So this is just a simple screen. I will expand this quickly. This is a simple screen which is showing, look, we have our plan of record, the approved plan, right? We have certain dates on here with certain priority levels. And this is just one example, but we're comparing it to scenario two. The dates might be different and the priorities might have changed. So we can see how might that affect our plan of record, and then we can make adjustments. But teams can do multiple scenarios and compare them so we can see what might happen. It's a really powerful thing to do. As part of another thing Ashley talked about was getting stakeholders involved in the process of going to market or launching, doing releases or launching products, because it isn't always us in product doing that, right? Sometimes we rely on the marketing team to have things ready. Sometimes the legal team needs to review things before we launch so that they know we're, especially if we're in regulated industries. So other people in the company need to participate. So you can create in Dragonboat you can define your product development lifecycle, right? And I'm just going to scroll to the end here to say that there could be an entire section for a go-to-market motion where members of our customer teams are participating in this and planning ahead. Marketing has to work on things weeks before a product launch sometimes to get ready. And each of these stages are defined by you. Each of these stages can work independently. And notice there are some items all the way down here in this, what looks like a linear process, that are in progress. And we may not have even worked on some of the things earlier on. So each of these stages are sort of independent of each other and can work simultaneously or, at the same time. So that's how you can have your teams then participate in your complete life cycle. But also you could have other stakeholders, executive stakeholders, for example, look in on this to see how things are progressing. And the last thing I want to show is, Ashley brought this up as well. Her executives ask her, so how are we doing? Where are things? How are we progressing? And so in Dragonboat, we want to surface things that might be at risk. We want to surface scoping that might have been over or under scoped. Where we want to surface things that might be unhealthy as early as possible so that we can address it. And so what I'm showing on this screen, and I'm dividing this up by each product team. So direct is a product, partner is a product. So now I can look at all the teams together and say, well, what's the health of these roadmap items? Are they behind? Are they ahead? This is fun here. The status summary Ashley talked about having doing fewer meetings or less time in meetings or shorter meetings. Using a screen like this asynchronously, but also in a meeting, we could filter this down to show only things that are off track and have this status summary field, which you can update, the subjective status of the item. So you could have a shorter meeting and discuss only the things that need to be addressed. We don't need to address the things that are green in a meeting under normal circumstances. So that's one thing to do. When we're looking at our scoping, it's one thing to plan out a certain scope. It's another thing to see what is becoming reflected in, let's say, an engineering tool where work is being broken down into stories, and the reported scope from a JIRA or an ADO or equivalent could be different than what we originally estimated in Dragonboat at the epic level, let's say. And so we can see the difference and say, well, wait a minute, are we over scoping it in engineering versus what we planned? And we can at least look at that and ask questions and have a conversation around it to catch something early. The last thing I'll show about this is that based on all of this data, we can show you a predicted, it's a little auto magic that we're doing, that we're showing you a predicted end date, which may differ from what your target end date is, to say, okay, we plan this to end in August, but Dragonboat is saying we can't finish this in October based on the data in here. Let's look into this, right? And so that's another way. So I should say this, having confidence to answer the question, where are we or how are we doing, increases your credibility. So you can say, yes, we have 3 things at risk and we have a predicted end date 2 weeks beyond it, and we have to make some adjustments. So you can be informed in how you answer that question. So if you do have questions about that or for Ashley, please let me know. What I would like to do is share with you. I know this was a brief demo. It wasn't a real demo. I kind of wanted to show you what's possible based on some of the themes Ashley talked about and what they're implementing at Carpe Data. But if you'd like to learn more and spend more time with us, go to our website. You'll see the URL on the screen now. You could even book a demo with someone on our team who can help you dig through in detail some of the things I showed you, or frankly, some of the things Ashley showed you. And finally, if I may, we are very excited about this. We have a virtual event coming up, our Accelerate Virtual Summit. And this speaker lineup is, if you haven't seen this yet, you have to go to the URL, snap that QR code, register as soon as you can. Christina put the link in the chat. Melissa Perry, Deborah Liu, Ryan Polk. We're going to really dig into product operations and help up level how we deliver and how we decide that we're working on the right things in our product team. So thank you all. We have just a minute or two for questions if you have any. Ashley, thank you for joining. I loved hearing your story, and thank you. This was great. Do you have anything to say before we let people go?
Yeah, thanks for having me, and excited to talk more if any of you have questions.
Yes, and if you have questions for Ashley, you can forward those to me. I can get those to her. I am bill@dragonboat.io, and we can do that after the session. Thank you all for joining. The recording will be sent out, and all have a great day. This was a pleasure.
Have a great day.